Okay. What's up, it's Jan, back at it again with another nerdy bookish video. This is gonna be my October 2024 reading wrap-up. I don't know why I had to film that intro 3 freaking times, but here we are. Hello, October wrap-up in the reread, rewrite, burn tag format as always. If you're new here, this is how I do my wrap-ups. I've been doing it for, I don't know, probably almost 4 years now. Basically, we talk about the books I read. It's gonna be randomized by these slips of paper with the titles on them, and I pick 3 at a time, and I say whether I would, hypothetically, reread, rewrite, or burn each book. Why does this feel so, like, weird? I, forgot how to do this. But as usual, we start with a little bit of a recap of the month overall and like statistics and things like that. So in October we had Vampathon, we obviously have spooky season, and oh, I made a TBR and I completed the whole thing except one book, and honestly I'm super proud of it. I'm counting it as a win. The only one I didn't read from my 13 book TBR was A Discovery of Witches, which I am honestly not even surprised by. I don't even know about that book anymore. Like, I just keep putting it off. I'm too intimidated by it. I even had the audiobook as like a crutch. I had this incentive of finishing my TBR. It's just so intimidating for some reason. Maybe I should just watch the show first and just do it backwards and read the book after. I don't know. But that's been on many a TBR and I have yet to read it. Either way, the rest of them, I finished all of them except Paleontologist, which I DNF. And I don't talk about DNFs nor count them towards my Goodreads goal, so just so you know. Overall, I read 24 books in October. October was a pretty solid month. It was honestly a near perfect spooky month. I loved it. I was literally so sad on November 1st. I was grieving the loss of October. Truly, like, I was depressed. I went to work depressed. I was just angry at the world and sad that entire day. That's okay. It's spooky year-round on this channel. We're just gonna move on and wait till next year once again. Like I said, Vampathon happened and I was a co-host, so thank you so much to Jody for asking me to co-host again this year. It was so much fun. That was the last week of October. Number of pages read, 7,526. Best book of the month is, drumroll please, The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. Listen, I read this in one day. I started it earlier in the year. I read like 9 pages. I read like the prologue and some of the first chapter, I think. Then I just restarted it. I had a day off and I just binged the entire book with the audiobook's help, of course. But the audiobook was still good as well. I'm sweating. This ring light, it's like a dark and gloomy day today, so I had to whip out the ring light and might have been a bad choice. Anyway, The Familiar, 5 stars. I read this for my most recent Do Your Worst episode featuring Sid from Sid Bookworm. Y'all know me, I still give my ratings and everything in my wrap-ups, but if you want like my full, I guess, real-time thoughts, then I will direct you to my vlogs, because I pretty much vlog every single book. Just some books are for like my Lair readathons, my Patreon readathons, some are my Patreon bloody reads, so things like that, but otherwise there should be a vlog for every book. She's got a vlog for every book. So I'll have that vlog linked down below. If you liked Addie LaRue, I feel like you'd love this. There's a Faustian bargain, which is one of my favorite tropes. It's historical fantasy. Our main character is trying to escape her little life, just wants something bigger for herself. There's a little bit of a romance in here, which was my favorite because it was so subtle. It was a slow burn. I just love the little gestures and the little thoughts that they had about each other. And there are these trials. The ending was my favorite part of the whole book, but also there are a lot of quotes about women as individuals and feminism in general, how society sees women. I would have to reread this because I feel like binging it in one day didn't allow me to like simmer with it, you know? I felt like I was rushing it just a little bit, probably a lot of it, but I mean, all I know is I loved it. I love the writing. Now I have 3 copies. One was gifted to me by one of my patrons, Destiny, so thank you, Destiny, if you're watching. But yeah, I was like, I need more than just a book of the month copy, so you'll see those other 2 editions in my next book haul. But yeah, love the cover, love the premise, love the atmosphere, the writing, the characters. 6-star read. I told myself I'd never say that out loud, but like 6-star read. I believe this is my number 1 of the year so far. I have a lot of comments being like, I picked this up, put this down, I've put this off, but like now you've convinced me to read it. So I really hope more people read this because honestly, I thought it was worth the hype. I also loved Ninth House and Hellbent, so take that into consideration. Worst book, Someone in the Attic by Andrea Mara. I have a spoiler-filled vlog on YouTube for this because this was my full moon book club pick. Unfortunately, I give this 1 star. And so did Joey, and we buddy read it, and that vlog will be linked down below. But this was not at all what I thought it would be. It's a good thriller for beginners, but if you're any sort of versed, not even well versed in thrillers, but any sort of versed in thrillers, you will probably not like this, or you'll predict stuff or just think it's stupid. There was just a lot wrong with it. I didn't like how it was structured with the cliffhangers of every chapter. Like, usually I like that because it keeps you reading, but this was just annoying the way they did it. And all the red herrings were just trying to do too much at once. The reveals at the end was so dumb for so many reasons. The characters were so dumb for so many reasons. There's just so much. Yeah, 1 star, worst book, unhauling for sure, after I take my Full Moon Book Club final picture at the end of the year of all the picks of the year. But yeah, I was really sad that this wasn't riveting whatsoever. I mean, it was a fun buddy read with Joey because we were able to roast it together, but it just sounded so good and it fell so flat. That's an understatement. I don't even know. Basically, there's supposedly someone in the attic and there are these TikToks. Okay, that's another thing. There was a lot of brands and pop culture mentioned in this and it just took me out of the story. I hated it. It doesn't make it relatable for me. It just pisses me off. There are these TikToks that have been posted of someone in our main character's house. That's just creepy in and of itself, right? There were a couple creepy moments, I will say, because I so vividly imagined myself in the main character's shoes, but otherwise, I just wanted it to be over the whole time. But yeah, vlog will be linked down below for all Joey and I's spoilery thoughts. Nonfiction of the month. I've been so good. I haven't missed a single month yet. I read The Third Gilmore Girl finally by Kelly Bishop. I went to the Kelly Bishop event. It was incredible. She is just such an amazing woman and this made me cry as anticipated. She's so unapologetic about everything she does in life and she's so good at like following her instincts. She loves animals and she loved her husband so much. It talks about her husband's passing. It talks about her fictional husband's passing. If you know, you know. And of course it talks about Gilmore Girls and her career in general. And she used to be a dancer, so she talks about that. She talks about her mom. So much packed in this 200 something page book and I absolutely loved reading this. 5 stars. I try to read books on my Kindle as much as I can every month and I keep it as a category just so I utilize my Kindle and I'm not just wasting my money on Kindle Unlimited. But I also read books from Libby on there. So I read The Lover by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. This is a short story. It's a paranormal romance and that's kind of all I want to say because it's really short. It's like 40 pages, I think. It was really well done and I believe I gave it 4 stars. It was super quick, but the writing was exquisite. It did what it wanted to do for a short story. I also read The Midwinter Witch from Libby, and that was a graphic novel. It was my last book of October. I just wanted to squeeze one more into Vampathon to fulfill some prompts. The Midwinter Witch is actually the 3rd book in the Witch Boy series by Molly Knox Ostertag. I have the 2nd book now. I don't know why I thought that was the 2nd book. I just saw Midwinter and I was like, ooh, I want wintry vibes. I gave The Midwinter Witch 3 stars. There was this competition in it. The art style, I just love Molly Knox Ostertag books art style. Does that make sense? Whatever. Yeah, it's just a fun time. It's a middle grade witchy novel. There's this boy witch. It's just about staying true to yourself and not letting other people get to you because, you know, witches in this world at least are female, but he was a boy who wanted to be a witch. He gets shit for it. It's an underdog story. So the arc I read for this month, I actually have a physical copy for. So my arcs of the month I count as anything that I have on NetGalley, whether I read it as a NetGalley arc or not, like as in as the arc itself, or if I have the physical copy, like the finished copy, because the main reason I added this category to my monthly goals is because I want to up my NetGalley score as much as I can. So I do have a NetGalley arc for this, but I got the finished copy. My Darling Dreadful Thing by Joanna Van Veen. I gave this 5 stars. I had a lot of 5 stars this month. I was just like ruthless. I was like, stop overthinking your 5-star ratings. It's not that deep, Jan. Just give them out. Who cares? Who fucking cares? I really enjoyed the gothic vibes. It was so atmospheric. It was such a unique concept with like the spirit companion and like how she helps her in certain ways, and then they get whisked away by this woman to this like gothic Victorian house. There's a toxic relationship with the mother. There are a lot of intense moments in this. Check trigger warnings for sure, but it was a fun spirit-filled time with a lot of gothic vibes if you're looking for that. And it's sapphic. Buzzwordathon. Kayla's Buzzwordathon is an annual reading challenge. Every month she has like a word or phrase that you find in titles of books. This month the category category was relationships. So I read The Stepford Wives, finally. It's a shorty patorty, and I also watched the Nicole Kidman film adaptation. I gave this 3 stars. I did like the film better. I know it's a rare occurrence, but there was just a lot of this book that I wanted more from. Granted, it's an older book, right? I don't know. I think it portrayed the message of female autonomy and straying away from the patriarchy and everything. Something about the writing was just not for me, but I did like the ending of this book. Next category is my coffin covers challenge, which is my monthly challenge on Patreon, which is instead of like the title we look for things on the cover. In October, the challenge was to find covers with bats or a bat. I read The Only Purple House in Town by Anne Aguirre, and I gave this 3 stars. I listened to the audiobook for the most part. I also had a physical copy from the library. I just wanted more of the romance. I wanted more of the cozy vibes. The characters were okay, but I didn't feel like invested in anything. There's this bed and breakfast and all this family drama with this witch figuring out her background history, and I think there was some sort of mystery too. I really can't remember, but there's like this motley crew of characters. There's this like old man, these paranormal creatures. It was a fun time. I will probably just forget about this very soon. I'm glad I didn't purchase it. Book of the month / Aardvark books. So this is just to like keep up with my book boxes. I didn't read an Aardvark book in October, but I did read, by the way, I am an Aardvark rep. I have a discount code, JAN, to get your first box for $4 and free shipping. I also have a referral code for Book of the Month, which is always linked in all my videos. But I read these 2 books, which I already talked about, The Familiar and Someone in the Attic. 500 plus pages. I read Thornhill by Pam Smye, I think. This is a graphic novel, but it's 2 stories. There's one told through text and one told through illustrations. Then the 2 stories collide by the end, and I really enjoyed this. I gave it 5 stars. I didn't even care. I believe I read this for my Patreon readathon. So that was a fun time. It was a nice way to kick off the weekend. It went by so fast because the text was diary entries and letters, I believe. It took me a while to figure out what was going on. I was confused. I had to literally read the synopsis and look up reviews on Goodreads because I wasn't understanding. I was like, why are there 2 different, is this the same girl? No, they're 2 different girls. They're 2 different stories. One's told in text, one's told in pictures, and I thought that was such a clever, unique concept. I loved it so much. It was so eerie. It actually creeped me out, and it's a middle grade. So I highly recommend it. It's a big book. I mean, that's what I use for the 500 plus pages goal, but it's worth it for sure. And it's a quick read. And then honestly, I consider this a classic. I'm gonna count it. I've asked a couple friends and Joey also considers it a classic, but Misery by Stephen King. I think this is a horror classic. Come on now. I gave this 4 stars. I also read this for the Do Your Worst episode that I mentioned earlier. I did watch the film adaptation and I like the book better. There were a lot more graphic, intense moments in this that they changed in the movie, which I was very disappointed by. But y'all know what this is. There's an author, there's a #1 fan of said author. He's held in captivity by said fan. Annie Wilkes forces him to write the next book in her favorite series written by him. And there are a lot of like torture scenes. I thought it was really good. I just didn't like the excerpts of the book that he's writing in this. I just didn't think it was necessary. Maybe one just to like immerse yourself. I feel like they were too long and they didn't really add to the story at all. It's not like it foreshadowed anything or whatever, or maybe it did, I don't know. Then there were also, you know, those Stephen King-esque rants that feel like nonsense, but I don't know how to explain it. Do y'all know what I'm saying? If you've read Stephen King, what do you call those moments where there's like all these parentheses and random words strung together that don't really make sense, and it's just like stream of consciousness but like on steroids? I can't believe I read this in like a day and a half. I never ever thought that would happen with a Stephen King, except like maybe one of his novellas, but even then, like his writing is so dense usually, but this one went really quickly. So if you have been wanting to get into Stephen King, I recommend starting with this. Okay, recap is over. That took forever. Let's go right into the first 3 books. The thing about longer recaps though is that when I do talk about them in this portion of the video, it's easier because I've talked about a lot of them before. Okay, so The Midwinter Witch, speaking of books I've talked about, My Darling Dreadful Thing, and oh, I have this. I don't know where I put it, but Destiny also got me a copy of this book. What was I just holding? Oh my god, my book haul is gonna be crazy. I just got really stressed. But anyway, The Hitchcock Hotel. Destiny got it for me because she saw that it's one of my new favorite thrillers of all time. I really love The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock. This book made me want to watch his entire backlist, filmography, and I gave that 5 stars. I would reread The Hitchcock Hotel, obviously. I guess I should have said that first before starting to talk about it, but yeah, I read it for my Patreon readathon. It was just so fast-paced. It was so well done. Maybe some things were predictable, but I like the way it was written. I like the way the story flowed. And basically this guy owns a hotel, and it's a Hitchcock themed hotel. So he has all this memorabilia of Alfred Hitchcock, and the book has all these like fun facts about Alfred Hitchcock and quotes said by him and references to his movies. There are times when the narrator breaks the fourth wall. It was so much fun. And this dude, this hotel owner, invites 6 of his college friends over for opening day to just like test the hotel out, see what's up, see where he is, catch up with these friends. You find out all this drama and all this backstory of something that happened back in college, and the way it all just comes together is just so good. And the biggest reason why I love this was because every single character, even though there's a lot of them and they're all roughly the same age, they were so distinct. The author did a really good job giving them distinctive characteristics and qualities. I couldn't picture them because I don't picture things for the most part, but I knew what kind of person each one was, you know? The twist was kind of predictable. I've said before that I don't like a villain monologue, but this book made me realize that if it's in the villain's head, then I'm okay. I don't like a villain monologue when they're like literally saying it all out loud to someone and just explaining straight through their plan, what happened, their thought process, all that stuff. So I would reread that. I would rewrite My Darling Dreadful Thing because I wouldn't burn it. I gave it 5 stars too. There were some racist comments in this, so I just take those out. It was said by objectively shitty characters, and it was acknowledged that these people were shitty for saying that and they're like closed-minded and whatever, but I would just take those out. So that's how I would rewrite it, easy peasy. And then I would burn The Midwinter Witch. It's a graphic novel. There are plenty out there. It was a 3-star book, so that was easy. All right, next one. This is already a burn. I already know. Someone in the Attic. Ooh, another 5-star. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. And then Anya's Ghost. I don't remember the author's name, but that was another middle grade graphic novel. I believe I read it for Vampathon. Okay, would burn this. I don't know. Would I reread this or would I rewrite it? It's a YA thriller that I'm extremely surprised by. This is one of my favorite thriller series of all time. I usually don't like YA thrillers, so this was a huge surprise, but would I reread it? I don't know. I would rewrite it and make it adult, or at least like new adult, because there are some parts where you just have to suspend your disbelief because this girl's in high school, so I don't understand why this had to be YA. It's definitely on the older side of YA, but yeah, I would just make it new adult and give more like adult themes maybe. I don't know, these get dark though. I don't know, I'm just gonna leave it at that. And then I would reread Anya's Ghost because it was cute. It was spooky for a middle grade especially. I would reread it. It didn't take too long at all. Next 3. So we have 8 full rounds of reread, rewrite, burn evenly. So that's beautiful. The Only Purple House in Town, which I already talked about. This is a manga, #DRCL Midnight Children Volume 2. This was gifted to me by a patron, a Stillby, so thank you. And then Anybody Home by Michael J. Seedlinger. I would reread this because I love this manga next to Junji Ito's books. These are my favorite manga for sure. This is a Dracula retelling. The art is just impeccable. I don't even know what else to say. I would reread these over and over, and I really hope the rest of the series gets translated because like impeccable. Art style, impeccable. Look at that. Everyone's so gorgeous in this. So yeah, would reread that, hands down. What was the other one? The Only Purple House in Town. I would burn that, because like I said, I gave it 3 stars. And then Anybody Home, I read for my first episode of my Keep It or Kick It series on this channel. I'll link that vlog down below, because I really love it. I'm so excited to film the next one. I gave this 4 stars. This is a home invasion book, but it's not like you're following the plot of a home invasion. It's like a how-to guide, and the narrator is this like director of the home invasion, and you get insight to like the psyche of the invaders and the people they're invading, and like what you have to predict and expect when you're trying to commit a home invasion. Trying to execute a home invasion. I think that's a better word. It's mostly in second person. I think it's all in second person actually. If you don't like that, don't read this book. But it is creepy. Not the way it's written, because it's just like so nonchalant the way it's written, but the fact that it's a home invasion, the fact that it's so realistic, like this shit could happen at any time, that's the horror behind it. The way it's written is just like, okay, this is normal, this is what happens, this is your everyday job. And then there are these viewers, I think, called the cults. They refer to everyone as like victim 1, 2, 3, 4 and invader 1, 2, 3, 4. You get insight of their vantage points and what they have to look for and how they're gonna perform this home invasion and how the family is reacting. If you like the movie Strangers, highly recommend. Did I say what I would do with that? Did I say I would reread? Or no, I'd rewrite that. How would I rewrite this? I feel like there were some parts, I don't know, was it the tone? Something about the tone, or I feel like maybe the writing was a little bit too simplistic. Maybe it could have gone deeper into the psyche, and it talks a lot about motivation, what motivates people, and how a lot of people's sole motivation for conducting home invasions is entertainment. So maybe if it delved deeper into that and had like more quotes about human tendencies and things like that, that'd be cool. Sure. Did I sound smart? I felt smart saying all that. Next we have Good Girl, Bad Blood, which is the second book to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Misery by Stephen King. And then the third Gilmore Girl. Third Gilmore Girl would reread, hands down. Misery would rewrite, I think. Even though Good Girl, Bad Blood I really enjoyed, I'd burn that. I mean, I didn't love it enough to purchase it. I'm keeping the first book mainly because it's a gift. It got dark. That one has an element, like I could say what the book's about in one word, but that would spoil something. So basically the girl starts a podcast and she investigates another case of a missing person of someone she knows. Misery I would rewrite and just take out all the problematic parts, take out those stream of consciousness parts that I mentioned, and just make it one excerpt from the book. Because I like that mixed media aspect, but I don't think we needed 3 or 4 of them. I skimmed the last one at that point. I was like, okay, well, I know this isn't gonna do anything. I don't need to read the book that he's writing. I just want to be like in the moment, you know? We've got Coup de Grace by Sophia Androm, I think. Probably butchered that, but this is a novella, a horror novella I got from the library. The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley, and then The Stepford Wives by Ira Levin. I would reread Coup de Grace. This was such a confusing book, but it was so well written. Every month I post a Patreon post with like favorite quotes of the month, and the most quotes from last month were from this little 100-page book. But I gave it 4 stars just because I was so confused. Like, I don't really know exactly what happened. All I know is that it speaks on themes of anxiety and depression. There's this like labyrinth, and it's like a metaphor for your brain, and like you can't get out. There's this like science part to it that I didn't really get, but I wasn't shocked. I was just there for the writing, the vibes, the eeriness, the metaphors of depression and everything, and like how relatable it was. There were also themes of grief within it, so it's a very depressing book. It's dark for sure, so make sure you're in a good mental state if you choose to read this book. But it is short, it's quick, and the writing gets a little bit dense, but in a good way, if that makes sense. So I would reread that. I would rewrite The Stepford Wives, I guess to make it a little bit easier to digest. There were some parts where it felt clunky. It just felt like a lot of dilly-dallying, and I was like, this is such a short book, why is there so much of this? But again, I like the movie. It was my first October vlog I read this for, so I'll have that vlog linked down below. And then Burn the Midnight Feast. I'm unhauling this. I hated this. It took me forever to read it. I read this for my Keep It or Kick It vlog, but I started it in like July, I believe. And it was just not what I expected. I thought there was gonna be so much more of this like supernatural thing. It just didn't live up to my expectations. Because also my coworker recommended it to me, and she's like, oh, you'll love this part, you'll love the ending, the twist, blah blah blah. I didn't care about any of the characters. I just don't think Lucy Foley's for me. I think this will be her last chance for me, because I've read The Guest List, The Paris Apartment, and this, and I only like The Paris Apartment. This I gave 2 stars, and The Guest List I gave 1 star, so I'm just not gonna waste my time. I'm glad I found this used on Pango for $7. I think it's going straight back to Pango if I even make the effort to do so. There's just a bunch of like pretentious rich people, and there's this ancient thing going on because it takes place in this manor or something that's like close to this forest. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. I'll link my Keep It or Kick It vlog, but those are my like spark notes thoughts, I guess. So we have The Lover by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, got The Haunting of Lee Harker, which was my Lair bloody read, and I have a spoiler filled vlog for this on Patreon, so if you're on my Patreon and you missed it, it is up. It just went up today as I'm filming this, which is November 4th. And then Thornhill. Okay, I'm actually planning on unhauling this, so I think I'd burn this. I gave this 3 stars. It just took a turn that was unique, but I thought it would be creepier and scarier than it was. It was more of a mystery book than a horror. But I do like what Darcy Coates did with this story and the play on the title, kind of what she made the readers think in the first chapter versus what was actually happening. And that's all I'm gonna say before I accidentally spoil something. Reread Thornhill, because I love the progression of that story, and I feel like now that I know how it ends, I'd want to see like the Easter eggs throughout. And then The Lover, I would rewrite. I'm gonna use the cop-out answer and say make it longer because I really enjoyed my time. And I like the setting. It was like a historical gothic setting. And yeah, the paranormal romance. I already said what I said about it. I don't know why I'm repeating myself. Got 2 more rounds. Brat by Gabriel Smith. Hollow by, I don't remember the author's name, but it's a graphic novel that I got from the library. And then We Came to Welcome You. I was wondering when this would pop up. I would burn Hollow. It was good. I gave it 4 stars, but I would burn it. Just, again, there are so many graphic novels out there. I haven't even read Sleepy Hollow, so I don't even know if I would enjoy it. I don't know. I like this, but it's like a one and done type of read for me. My favorite part of Hollow was Gordo the pumpkin. It was a fun time. It was set in this like very autumnal, well, it's set in Sleepy Hollow, but all the autumnal vibes were there in the art style as well. There's like this fall festival, like the Sleepy Hollow festival or whatever, and the characters had their own personalities and they encounter the ghost, the headless horseman, and there's this like mystery aspect to it, a reimagining of the legend of Sleepy Hollow. But I would burn it. I would reread We Came to Welcome You. I gave this 5 stars. This was my first read of October. I love Vincent Tirado's writing in this, and the humor was great. The sapphic relationship, there's a lot of commentary, and the cult aspect of this was very well done in my opinion. The ending could have been better, but this was so good. I tabbed the living shit out of it. I would highly recommend if you're looking for a culty book. The HOA is the cult in this. They move to this gated community. Our main character is Sol, and she's Dominican, and her wife is Alice, who's Korean. So there's a lot of commentary on like race. There's also racism in this, as well as homophobia and a lot of other things. So do check trigger warnings for this because there are a lot of parts that are hard to read, especially when we're learning about Sol's backstory with like her family and everything. And then there's like job discrimination, things like that. So do beware, but it was really good, really well written. The humor really made the dark parts more like lighthearted and fun, and overall it's fucking creepy. Brat I would rewrite. I gave this 4 stars. I liked how quick it was. It's like in this format. Okay, I love this format in litfic. This is like a literary horror. It talks a lot about grief. I would just rewrite the problematic parts. There's these 2 brothers and the way they talk to each other is just so disrespectful, but I mean that's how siblings talk sometimes, but I just don't like reading about it. There's like homophobia and fat phobia in this, but the horror elements with like the skin peeling and stuff, if you know you know, that really got me viscerally reacting. But again, there's like excerpts in this of like manuscripts and stuff, and I really don't understand the plot, but I was here for the vibes. It's one of those books. And the last 3, ooh, oh, this is gonna be so hard. Fuck, we have The Familiar. I already know what the last 2 are. Fuck. Okay, wow, of course we have the most difficult decision. Okay, The Familiar, We Used to Live Here, and Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Are you fucking kidding? Are you fucking kidding? We got a 5-star and 2 4-star. No, wait. No, a 5-star, a 5-star, and a high 4-star that I know would be 5 stars upon reread. Oh my god. This is like the toughest decision I've ever had to make for these. Okay, so I would reread The Familiar. I'd reread all of these. Okay, I could actually cry. I could actually cry. I got it. I would reread The Familiar. Just leave it at that. I would rewrite Intermezzo. I got bored at some parts. I really liked part 3. Part 2, there were parts that really dragged. This is about 2 brothers who are grieving over their dad who passed away. There are age gap romances in this, and they both get themselves in these situations, which cause them to drift apart, and then it's just the progression of their relationship and them growing up and learning things about each other and themselves, especially Ivan. He's our main character. He's 22? I think 23. It gets sad. I mean, it's Sally Rooney, y'all know she's like the queen of sad girl litfic. Yes, it did make me cry by the end, but I mean it's no normal people. Okay, but she's so good at expressing, depicting, portraying, whatever the fuck you want to call it, human tendencies and just like how humans act and speak and react to things. Ugh, yeah. Okay, how about I make the chapters shorter? It's a valid rewrite move, okay? We'll make the chapters shorter. And then this one, it's 5 stars. Okay, the hype is real with this one. Y'all have heard about this. Everyone in the fucking world is reading this book, and it's already picked up as a film adaptation, as a Netflix original, I believe. Yeah, it's fucking creepy and a unique concept in my opinion, but I would burn it because the ending's a little bit confusing, but also this story will stick with me enough to where I don't need to reread it, but I'm keeping this on my shelves, so I could reread it if I wanted to. But for the sake of this video and this grouping, I'd burn this. That's crazy. I hate when that happens. But yeah, it's about this family who knocks on this woman's house and she's like, hey, this was my childhood home. I want to take my kids on a tour. Let me in. And they overstay their welcome, to say the least. There's all this creepy shit happening. There are creepy children. You learn things about the past. There are like these excerpts, not excerpts. I don't even know what to call these. What would you call these? If you've read this book, please tell me what would you call these like document things in between chapters that kind of like foreshadow the situations, but also like flash it back as explanations to what's going on. I don't know, there were parts that really creep me out in this. When people say this book is scary, seriously, reading this at night with just my book light, I got so paranoid. I had to like look over my shoulder and shit. This one is worth the hype, but sadly I have to burn it for this godforsaken method of wrap-ups that I choose to do. No, but I really love these. It's fun for me. Before these, I didn't really like filming wrap-ups, but this makes it fun. I'm glad I figured out a way to make it fun so I can keep delivering for y'all. That is everything. I'm so sad October's over. Thank you for watching this wrap up. Let me know if you've read any of these books. If you agree, disagree, please comment down below on any of your thoughts. I would love to know and chat. If you made it to the end of this video, I'm just gonna grab the first thing. Let's put a yellow heart to represent intermezzo, or a chess piece to represent intermezzo, because this is one of my most anticipated of the year. I'm glad it lived up to my hype for myself. I did go to a launch party for this by myself, so it was a moment, and I won something at the raffle over there, and it was at one of my favorite indie bookstores, so it was a 2024 highlight for me. So yeah, put a yellow heart or a chess piece to represent intermezzo. It almost didn't live up to the hype I put on it for myself. That second part took me forever. I actually didn't blow through this book. It took me weeks to get through. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope you had a 5-star day. Don't forget to do some self-care, and I'll see you in my next video.